The first principle of design we'll be looking at is balance. In design, visual balance appeals to us because we rely on balance in nearly everything we do. Babies learning to sit, stand, or walk discover they must maintain their balance, the equal distribution of their weight, or they fall down. Because our own sense of balance is very important to us, we feel uncomfortable when we see something that is not balanced. The same is true of layout. If a layout isn't balanced, readers feel uneasy. They feel something is wrong with the page. Here, you notice a teeter-totter. Well, there's various combinations of balance that are available in a teeter-totter. There's far more possibilities than simply equal weight. One could achieve balance with only one element, experimenting with the position of the elements on the bar. We could remove the bar and relocate it to an off-center position, thereby creating a new center of balance. Endless possibilities exist. Let's go ahead and look at what we have here. You can see that here, the teeter-totter becomes unbalanced. We have weight on one side and nothing on the other. If we add a second element, now the teeter-totter becomes balanced again. Equal weights with this center balance position provide an equal center of balance. Here we're off-center again because one of the circles becomes larger. And finally, we can achieve balance by adding two smaller circles that are equal in size and mass to the larger circle. The teeter-totter example functions as intended when there are equal weights of relatively equal size, or the sum of, on each side of the beam. But balancing elements in your design does not necessarily mean using symmetrical balance. Symmetry is useful for certain solutions, but it can become tiresome in every design. Balance can create a mood. In art, balance can create a powerful mood. Can you think of a classical painting that relies on symmetry to achieve a feeling? For instance, how about The Happy Unicorn by Salvador Dali? This painting of a unicorn communicates a calm, celestial feeling that is reinforced by the equal balance of the figures centered in the format. By contrast, Apparition of the Town of Delft by Salvador Dali has a very unstructured, free-form feel that's in part result to the lack of strict balance. Balance, or lack of balance, can likewise affect your design depending on the mood that you want to create. There are two approaches to balance. You can arrange elements so that they are evenly distributed to the left and to the right of the center. This is called symmetry. The other type of balance is asymmetry. You arrange dissimilar objects of equal weight on each side of the page. You can use color, value, size, shape, and texture as balancing elements in an asymmetrical design. Because dark areas look heavier than light areas, a small black shape on the left would balance a large white shape on the right. Symmetrical balance can communicate strength and stability. It's especially appropriate for a traditional conservative piece. Asymmetry brings contrast, variety, movement, surprise, and informality to a page. It's especially appropriate for pieces that must entertain as well as inform, such as travel brochures. Symmetry means a mirror image. One side is the mirror image of the other. Symmetry can occur in any orientation as long as the image is the same on either side of a central axis. This type of image has great appeal. It makes for a good shape relationship. Many people automatically gravitate to symmetry. We are symmetrical after all. We have two eyes, two ears, etc. Look around at consumer products and graphics. Look at printed materials and see how many use symmetry. You will find that it's the dominant organizational concept being used. In these examples here, you see a horizontal or vertical line. If you want to achieve pure symmetry, that is, a design that is centered on all sides, you're somewhat limited to where we can place the line. True symmetry requires us to place the line centered left to right and top to bottom. With a vertical line, we would still place the center left to right and top to bottom. And it achieves pure symmetry. So both of these examples are achieving pure symmetry. Now, place the line on a 45-degree angle. When it's placed in the format centered left to right and top to bottom, it doesn't have the same feeling of complete symmetry, but the design is still technically balanced. Looking at the same angled line reversed, we achieve a slightly different feel, but we maintain the same degree of symmetry and balance. In examples A and B, the line is placed within the format to achieve pure symmetry, that is, a design that's absolutely centered on all sides. In examples C and D, The line is placed at a 45-degree angle, so it's not absolutely symmetrical in placement, but it achieves a somewhat different feeling of balance. Pure symmetry is somewhat limiting in where elements can be placed. Asymmetry. Now we'll use the same line and we'll place it in the format at a random position. Unless it is placed perfectly, horizontally, or vertically, you'll automatically create an asymmetrical design, no matter where you place it. Is the design balanced? Well, strictly speaking, the fact that the line is not centered pulls the design out of balance. At the same time, it creates a feel that the balanced design does not achieve. It can be a useful tool in guiding the viewer's attention to something important. The goal is not to always achieve an absolute balance. In fact, when always used, it can be boring and stagnant in many instances. Sometimes the interest achieved by a lack of balance strengthens the impact of your design. Let's do a quick visual exercise. Let's create a format and introduce another shape into it. I've chosen a dot of roughly the same size and mass as the line. Try placing the shape and the line in the format to create a perfectly symmetrical design. Can it be done? Well, examples A and B are trying. You cannot create a perfectly symmetrical design with these two shapes, however. Even if you balance the design side to side, you will not be able to center it top to bottom. The only way to create a design that's perfectly symmetrical is to introduce another line or a dot, which allows you to center the design completely. Asymmetrical balance. Now we'll place a third dot in the format. Once again, it makes it impossible to achieve perfect symmetry. Because the third dot does not allow us to center the design both vertically and horizontally, we can, however, achieve balance. It's now possible to place the three dots and the line in the format in a number of configurations and still distribute the mass in the format easily and equally. Balance does not require perfect symmetry. In fact, while designs that use absolute symmetry can be very appealing when used for the right purposes, your possibilities are far widened when you use balance to create interest without regard to perfect symmetry. Hence, asymmetrical balance. Asymmetry is also known as informal balance. It means without symmetry. Now, to create an entirely different feeling, we'll use the same elements and intentionally ignore balance. What moods are created in the extreme examples below? All of these designs tend to activate the format space in a different way. Some of the designs create tension. At certain times, tension is useful to communicate a feeling of the design. Sometimes tension is added to create interest by throwing a design out of balance. There are no rules to follow except the visual needs of your concept. Some designs will be purposely unbalanced. In these three examples, it shows designs that tend to activate the format in ways that a balanced design never could. You could say that some unbalanced designs create a feeling of tension. The experienced designer can use both symmetry and asymmetry to create visual, exciting effects. To explore the possibilities of combining symmetry and asymmetry, try dividing the format in half vertically, making the left half white and the right half black. At this point in the format, the symmetry or symmetrical, they're symmetrically divided. If we introduce a number of black elements into the white half, for instance, 3 dots and 3 lines, and likewise place 3 white dots and 3 lines in the black half. By placing the lines and dots in the same position on both sides of the format, you create an orderly feel. Try placing the dots and lines in random positions on both sides, and then try placing the lines and the dots randomly on one side and orderly on the other. As you can see, in each configuration, it creates a different feeling. By using simplified elements in this exercise, you can ignore the content that the dots would normally contain if they were full-size illustrations or photos in an actual design. Notice how the position of these simple elements helps to communicate the concept. The experienced designer can use symmetry, asymmetry, or a combination of the two. In example A, elements are placed in an orderly way on both sides of the design. In example B, elements are orderly on one side of the format and randomly placed on the other side. And in example C, elements are placed at random on both sides. Notice how each configuration created a different feeling. In this previous exercise right here, I used lines and dots, simple elements, to get my basic idea across. The possibilities for communication greatly expand as you use photographs, illustrations, blocks of actual text, and other substantial elements in your design. Don't rely on the content of a photograph or the words of the text alone, though, to communicate your message. Instead, focus on the basic design of the format and how the position of each piece of art, each block of text, and every bit of texture can enhance the concept. Always keep in mind that you can create feelings and moods with even the simplest elements. As the elements you use become more substantial, your possibilities become infinite. As you learn to use balance to create a mood, you enhance your design skills and enable more effective communication of your concept. Let's look at symmetry and asymmetry again. The studies to the right here, demonstrate basic symmetrical balance. Elements are orientated along a common axis. The image mirrors from side to side along that axis. The configurations shown here are symmetrical from left to right and from top to bottom. Symmetrical balance is also called formal balance because a formula is used, a mirror image about a vertical axis. The result looks formal. It looks organized and orderly. Symmetrical layouts have a strong sense of unity because at least half of the image is repeated. At the same time, they lack variety because only half is unique. There is a strong emphasis on the center axis in symmetry since all of the information is reflected from there. This should be taken into consideration when designing with symmetry. It's easy to overemphasize the center. Symmetrical balance guarantees left to right balance, which is the most important aspect of balance, but there is more to balance than that. Top to bottom balance is also very important. Most images seem more stable if the bottom seems slightly heavier. If the top seems too heavy, the composition can look precarious. Balance between the center and the outside of the image must also be considered. Fortunately, your own sense of balance is usually good enough to feel when the balance in a composition is wrong. Pay attention to your own sense of balance and you will do well. Your sense of balance, though, like everything else, can be improved with practice and experience. Asymmetry. These studies use asymmetry to achieve compositional balance. Elements are placed organically, relying on the interaction of form and negative space and the proximity of elements to each other and to the edge of the field, yielding both tension and balance. You can sometimes use nothing to balance something. Negative space has visual interest if used properly. Exact amounts of and correct placement are required. There are no rules or limits with asymmetrical balance. That does not mean that anything goes. Careful adjustments in size, shape, color, and placement of the elements in the format are required before balance is achieved. The attraction of asymmetrical balance to designers is its lack of a formula. This allows greater freedom, which lends itself to do more creative compositions. The difficulty lies in its lack of organization. This must be overcome by careful placement of objects and the use of other organizational devices. What to consider when striving for balance? Well, think of which type of balance will be most appropriate for your concept. Does the idea call for symmetrical balance or asymmetrical balance? Does your design need a purposely unbalanced look? Does it need tension? If so, have you pushed your design to feel obviously unbalanced? Don't be wimpy about your choice. Make sure that if you want it to be unbalanced, it is unbalanced. What elements will you use to achieve balance? Will you balance elements that are similar to one another or elements that are different? What are the different moods you can create with the balance of your design? Have you used balance to its potential in your design? Is it contributing to your concept? Have you let your art and concept dictate the needs of your design in terms of balance? Be careful not to let your desire to achieve a certain balanced or unbalanced look overwhelm the needs of the design. Things you can do to create balance. You can repeat a specific shape at regular intervals, either horizontally or vertically. You could make all the photos the same size rectangles, and you could set them the same distance apart. You could center elements on the page. You could put several small visuals in one area to offset a single visual or block of copy. You could use one or two odd shapes and keep the rest regular shapes. For instance, you could put 2 photos in ovals and keep all the copy in square blocks. You could lighten a text-heavy piece with a bright, colorful visual. You could leave ample white space around large blocks of copy or very dark photos. You could have a large light area near the center of your piece while putting a small dark area near the edge. You could offset a big dark photo or illustration with several small bits of copy, each surrounded by plenty of white space. You could divide your page into an equal number of columns or horizontal rows. Let's look at a couple of examples. The first example is this Case Western Reserve University ad. This is a classic example of formal balance and symmetry. The title, header, graphic, tagline, and all the supporting text are carefully centered. There's plenty of white space, which makes for a clean, uncluttered layout. Although perfect formal balance can be static, here it conveys an air of elegance and no nonsense, giving the user the impression that this university is serious about the education it provides. This seriousness balances well with the image of the geeky glasses in the word cool, which actually are reinforcing another subtle use of balance. The next ad we'll look at is the Honda Inside ad. The asymmetry here brings variety, movement, and surprise to this piece. The clean images of the car balances the white space. The smaller image of the car and the logo and the copy on the right offset the optical weight of the large car that is partially off the format on the left. The minimal use of green is just enough color to grab the viewer's attention and reinforce the message that this product is green, it's eco-friendly. Another subtle use of balance is used by featuring both the front and the back of the car. The method ad uses balance in an interesting way. The extra large creative image on the left side of the format balances out the smaller product shot and the copy that sits on the monochromatic background on the right side. The division of the format is quite apparent and is used to create visual interest and to support the tagline and the body copy. Even the color choices are balanced. The brown hues on the floor are complementary to the baby blue on the left, or the baby blue shown on the right pane. This adds to creating a symmetrical, balanced advertisement. The sense of unity is immediately apparent. The last ad we'll be looking at is this Moen ad right here, and this uses balance in an unexpected way. It balances the format horizontally from left to right and also from top to bottom. The photos coming on the form's top left and bottom right meet in the direct center, and they give the ad a perfectly symmetrical look. The size of these elements is very close so that they balance each other out weight-wise. The top and bottom areas of the ad contain the copy and the logos, and they're actually exactly alike. They basically mirror each other, this little strip and this strip right here. Even having the bottom copy appear upside down, and I don't know if you can quite read that, but you can kind of see it in the larger format right here, that helps to achieve perfect symmetry. The text is about the same length, but it cleverly says something different. The message themselves balance each other out. The copy on the top talks about elegance and artistic look and function of the product, while the bottom copy talks about the water-saving attributes and how eco and green the product is. This ad is symmetrical in every way and was well thought out in every direction. It's a great example of using balance effectively.